ready to check out the 4411 tactics that I normally use. I'll give suggestions for what I think is the best play styles for each position. But before that, I'll go claim my rewards for the week from Squad Battle, so you can check that out too. So there you go. Got Elite 1 for Squad Battles. So you get the 600 tokens, which you do for any of the elite ranks, and then a little bit more gold. Alright, so I'll go back over to my club. So this is the team I use, if you haven't seen it. I'm in the process of doing Evos, so a few of them are going to be higher rated soon. Lucia and Galvez, they'll both be higher rated soon, and just started Evo on Rolfo and Karchawi. And then I got another one ready for Amizaga, and Jana and Basha and Andrea and Dali. So all of them will be getting Evos in the near future. Anyways, the tactics that I use 4411, not because it's supposed meta now. I used this in FC25. I think it was February of FC25 is when I started using this. I started out using 433 number 4, which I liked that. I used that in manager career mode before I ever played Ultimate Team. And then in November of FC25 is when I first started Ultimate Team. And then I switched to using this, and then for a while I went to 4141 and then back to this, and then sometimes I do 442. So it just depends, but this is the one I use the most. I don't like the ones where everyone's clumped up in the middle and you don't have either right and left middles or wingers, because I have favorite players that I like to use, so I try to use formations that fit my players. So I do have two versions of this, of the 4411, that I can show you. Now I do keep it unbalanced, and same with the defensive thing. I don't play high defense. I think that's part of the reason that some people like lengthy defenders, is because they're always passing them and they're having to try to run them down from behind from a long ways on the field because they're up too high. If you do balance like I do, avoid lengthy. It totally sucks. Lengthy is so fast that it's extremely slow. People like it because it's slow and sucks. They're usually not agile players that have lengthy, and that is why like Pina and Mbappe and stuff seem to be meta, and they never were. It's because people use lengthy defenders so they get past them. I actually have controlled and explosive for my defenders back there, and I've never had a problem. Even from the start of the game, I've never struggled against like Pina and Mbappe and those kind of players. But if you have lengthy, you struggle with them. Now, what I do over here, you can either do poacher or target forward. It depends on your setup for your striker. At this point, I could switch mine to target forward because she does have really high strength, and I do have the enforcer and press proven. So with that in mind, you can switch it to target forward. The reason I don't care for advance forward is because a lot of times your striker drops back too far in the middle of the field to help out your defense, but then you have nobody to pass it to up front if you like to do counter plays. Starting with the back line, I used to use winger on one side and defend on the other. Once they added versatile to it and I tried it out, that actually seems more useful because they can get up some to help out, but they also go inwards more to help out the defense at the same time. So because of that, I do prefer versatile. Now, for the center backs, I use defender on one and stopper on the other. The purpose of that, stopper will have them step up and be more aggressive to close down the passing lanes, and they get closer. So if you don't know, the R1 pressure thing, it's best to not just hold it. When the opponent gets close to your defender, if you tap it, then your defender usually steps up just a little bit more, and that usually causes them to actually tackle the ball away from the opponent if you have it on stopper, because they already tend to be aggressive. So tapping it when they're close, that's what that does. Or if they're, say the opponent has the ball and you're around midfield and they send their players on runs, well, you double tap R1 and that'll have two of your players have the blue thing above their head and they will be tracking those runs. Now, what you got to do, if they pass it towards one of them that you're tracking their runs, right before the ball gets there, release R1 and tap it again. And what that'll do, it'll stop the tracking runs, but when you tap it, it adds the pressure right when the ball's getting there, and then they will take possession of the ball and your opponent won't have it. So that takes some getting used to, but it's different than just holding the R1 pressure. You have to know when to track the runs, and then you got to time it right after they have passed it, but before they receive it, that's when you release it and then tap R1 again. And your defender that was right next to them, then they'll turn around and they'll grab it. Having Intercept Plus really helps out with doing it that way. The goalkeeper, you need higher speed if you want to have sweeper keeper. If you don't have high speed, I'd suggest normal goalkeeper, like this, but then put it on balanced. But if you do have high enough speed, then sweeper keeper's good. In the middle, I like to have one box to box, so they do help out in defense more, but they can also help out in offense, and they're not too far back, because if you do deep lying playmaker, a lot of times they're too far back. But box to box, a lot of time they're more central, so you can send them on runs to help out in the attack too. But they're far enough back that you can take control of them to chase down the opponent from behind. And then I do like two playmakers right here. I tried Shadow Striker before. I actually prefer that if I'm running a 4-3-3. But in this version, the 4-4-1-1, I prefer the Playmaker. They can help out on defense and be in the middle, or that's been my experience anyways, but they can also go on attack, but they're not up here so far. Because if you have Shadow Striker, it's almost like a 4-4-2, and they're further up front. This one, they tend to run in behind your striker, so you pretty much get two chances to try to pass it up front. If you miss your striker and they're already covered, then this one's on their way right behind them. But if you do it the Shadow Striker, it's more like a 4-4-2. This one, same thing, but they start out farther back than your cam. So all together with your striker on either poacher or target forward, and then two playmakers, you pretty much get a stack of three. You know, they're slightly offset sideways, but you get a stack of three that will be advancing, so you get three chances to pass the ball there for your attack. Now, the reason I have this one on inside forward and this one on winger, I tend to attack on the left, or advance the ball on the left to get upfield quick, because that's my faster side, because Atenea is really fast. Though Ona's really fast now too. Anyways, I attack on one side usually, and then I cross it over. That's why this one's on the inside forward. I would not choose to advance on the side where you have it inside forward. The purpose of that, if you've ever tried it, when your fullback has it, your inside forward, what do? They don't run in a straight line like a winger. They start cutting in. Most of the time what happens, they cut in behind the opponent, which means if you do passes to them, the opponent is in between you and them, and they tend to intercept the ball. So that's why I would not suggest advancing on this side if you have inside forward. If you do choose to, the way you got to do it, you have to advance some with your fullback, and then pass it in to one in the center, and then pass it back out to your winger over here. So it's more like a triangle shape. It goes from the fullback to the center middle, and then back out there. Then you can attack with that one or cross it into your striker or cam. It works that way. But if you want to just run straight, then you want them on winger. It's faster to run straight and use the driven pass with the R1 and A to get that ball down there and advance a lot quicker. So there's the one tactics that I normally use. That's my main starting tactic. But now I have another one. I have a few, but I'm only going to show you two, and there's a reason behind that. I used to also have my 4-3-3 setup and my 4-4-2. I used to have them, which to do that, you need players that have multiple positions and good roles in those positions and everything. But there's still a problem with it no matter how good your players are. When you select this stuff with the D-pad, your players are transitioning to different positions on the field. They are moving out of their positions, and it can leave holes in your team where the opponent might advance. So you're vulnerable while they're in transition from one formation to the next. So what I started doing, I just had another 4-4-1-1. See, they're both the same shape. And I don't have my players swap with each other at all. You got to be careful. When you set up another one, the game will automatically put people in different spots. So you got to hit Y button and put them back where they belong. Now, what this does, this is for defense. Say it's later in the game and you're ahead and you just want to hold on to your lead, or maybe your players are getting tired and you want to hold on to your lead. Well, they stay where they were, but it switches to more defensive. So some of it's the same. Like the depth, all this kind of stuff, that stays the same. Now, this, they turn into defend on both your fullbacks because you want them more defensive. And your other center back, they all end up defensive, the back line. And then these, you want both your center middles on holding defend because that keeps them back. So that way they don't advance. And then the cam, you're going to put on classic 10. What this does, it pretty much creates like a half moon shell around your goalkeeper, makes it more of a wall and really hard to get through. Now, these ones on the side, I use wide midfielder. Now, there's a reason for that. You can put it on defend like that so they can get back, but they still go up at least halfway. And the same thing with this. You want them there. You don't want to switch it to the 4-5-1 where they're farther back. You want your cam up higher like that, even if they're on classic 10. And the purpose is if you have everyone drop too far back, then every time the opponent gets it, they're already halfway up the field. So they just get to take tons of shots towards your goal. But if you have these ones, so they're going to be out there. And oops, did I mess that up? I don't know. I'm not going to save it anyways. And then this one will be in the center. So that way, once you do defend and you take the ball from your opponent, you could hit it out to either side because they're staying wide. That's why the brighter part, that's where they tend to stay. And you can get it up here too. Now, if it's late in the game and you think, man, there's probably a good chance of making a shot, that's usually the point when people mess up. You do not want to take that shot. If you're like past 80 something minutes and you're only up by one and you're trying to defend and hang on to it, waste time. Don't worry about taking a shot because if you don't make it, then they have the ball again. So the whole point is as soon as you get the ball, keep the ball and don't let them have it. Also, another thing, for these staying up here where they are, if you notice, they're past the center field line because EA started punishing people that just pass the ball around the back. Well, if you stay on the other side of the line, so the game understands that you're advancing and trying to attack, even if really you're not. But if you're in their half of the field, the game thinks that, so it doesn't mess you over. If you keep it back here, what happens is all of a sudden your passes become very inaccurate. Your high-level people and your playstyle pluses suddenly play like bronze players. They become really slow and immobile. The passes become really weak and slow, and they become really inaccurate. Even if you just sub someone in and they're at 100% stamina and everything, they should be performing great. It just punishes you if you try to pass it around back there. So that's why if you can keep it just on the other side of the halfway line, then the game doesn't do that. That programming doesn't kick in. But you can still pass it back and forth, and you can pass it behind here. Just make sure within one or two passes it's back on this side of that line. And then the game understands that you're attacking, even though you're really not. And if you have some strong player, you can try to go to those top corners and use L2 and just hold the ball there. But don't just hold it in place. You know, if they're trying to get on your right side, go to the left. If they try to get on your left, go to the right, and maneuver back and forth. But if you look at your stamina bar, it slowly drains stamina when you're doing that. So after like maybe 10 seconds, then pass it back to your midfielder again, and then let them advance up there and them hold it and just keep doing that, and then kick it across the field and do it on the other side just to burn out the clock as much as you can. But that's the whole purpose of this second 4-4-1-1 setup. And they don't swap positions at all. If you notice, they're in exactly the same spots, the same players. It just changes their roles. That's all it does to make them more defensive. So anyways, that's the 4-4-1-1 tactics, if you wanted to see that. Now I can show you the play styles. They may not have 100% of the play styles I suggest, because I've been using these all year long, and it wasn't until the last couple days that it lets you complete the play style things for free for anyone. But if you already used them all year, you already have certain play styles. Okay, so I'll start here with the goalkeeper. I personally prefer these four right here. It'd actually be good to have defender or deflector plus too, if you get to choose every one of them. The purpose behind Aerial Fortress, my 5'8" goalkeeper has done better than everyone else in the game for me the whole year, ever since I've had Aerial Fortress. It really can jump higher to defend, so that makes a big difference. I do the first touch, so that way as soon as you get the ball you can move quicker with your goalkeeper. And of course the T-key, so that way when you pass it back and forth, you don't want errors on your goalkeeper part. And the ping pass, that gets it out quicker. Quick step, I don't know for sure if this is helping or not to make them move in the box more. Jockey may or may not help too, because goalkeepers do jockey a lot. I do have rapid, but that's because sometimes I just mess around with my goalkeeper, like you see, and scored 6 goals and got 2 assists. Because there are sometimes I just mess around and run out of the box, because she's had like high speed and stuff a long time. Okay, so that's it for goalkeeper. Now over here to the right back. Let's see. So these are the ones I have on Sheila that I've gotten throughout the year. You may want Tiki instead of Finesse. She's just so fast, I'm able to attack with her. And if you notice, she's controlled now, huh? Yeah, because I didn't switch her chemistry. Normally she's explosive. I just hadn't got around to switching her chemistry yet after the last Evo, so I'm going to put that back. Because when she's explosive, she outruns people a lot. That's how she's got some of the goals and assists. But anyways, Quick Step Plus is great to have for defender, whether you're right or left side or your center back, so that's really useful. The Bruiser Plus is useful, but it's especially useful on your right and left back when they come down the sides. Now first touch, that can prevent a lot of errors, so as soon as you pass it to them, they're mobile. The intercept, you want that because a lot of people, they try the through balls down the line, like how I was saying, when they do the inside forward, because most people online that make suggestions for tactics have them on inside forward all the time. So they go behind the defender, they curl around back there. If you have intercept plus, most of the time you're going to take that ball from them when they try to pass it down the line, if their players are on inside forward. Anticipate plus, I don't know if people know this, but it helps your player to play smarter. They get themselves in better positions than they normally would have. And the most important thing is, most of the time it prevents them from being called for fouls and penalties. So that's especially important for your defensive line in the back, because you don't want to be giving away free penalties. Because then the majority of the time people can score penalties, because it's just a guessing game, to be realistic. Now, slide tackle, that's useful because if you are up advancing, like say you're doing the pass back and forth thing between your right back and right middle or something where you try to advance, if they get a hold of the ball and they're running, and you don't have a right back there anymore, or left back depending on the side, and you're chasing them down from behind, then that's where slide tackle can come into play. So you can stop them last minute before they get that shot off. Jockey's always good. That makes it so you can move a lot faster when you're jockeying, but also you can switch from jockeying to running and stuff back and forth a lot quicker too. Technical, you only need that if you're going to do like me and attack with your right and left back. If you're not attacking and running them way upfield, you do not need that. You could replace that with block. Same thing with the shooting play style. If you're not going to be attacking with them, then Tiki would be more useful in that circumstance too. And then you can see my left back over here. Her, I did have slide tackle plus. The reason for that is because I used to play her on wing back for a long time, which means she was often more advanced up the field and had to chase people down from behind, a lot of times like 10 to 15 yards behind them from the start. So that slide tackle came into play a lot for me when I used to use wing back. So that's why I went ahead with the slide tackle plus over there. And because she's wing back, she is attacking a lot. That's why I did the tech plus thing. But normally, if you use them as defense, you don't need technical at all in that circumstance. Same with the whip pass. If you're not going to be running them as a wing back, you do not need whip pass for them. Long ball would be better. So when the opponents are high pressing you sometimes, you can get it over the top into your teammate down there. If you don't know, X button for the long ball. If you do not have the play style, most players, it is the worst pass you could do. It is terrible. It pops way up in the air and it's real slow, and the opponent is almost always there to interfere with it. So if you plan on doing them, make sure you have the playstyle. Otherwise, don't do them with those players. Incisive, there's no need for that because ping serves the same purpose, except it's way better with driven, the R1 and A to get it straight up down the line. So incisive is a complete waste on having them back there. Let's see what else. You might want press proven if you have an extra one. Like say you don't have technical and you don't have whip pass. So maybe you want block over there if you play them on defense, because I don't know if you're attacking on the right or left side or how you do it, but if this is the side that you choose to have on defense, you might want block. But also press proven does come into play if you take the ball from them, but then you don't want to give it up, but you don't have passing options either yet, and you got to wait for your players to get over there. Then you can do L2 and hang on to that ball longer, which gives your teammates more time to get there to pass it, so that way they don't take it back. Especially since a lot of people play with the high depth, really aggressive defense, and high pressure, so that way you can hang on to that ball. Now for center backs, mine are versatile. They can do CDM and right, left back, center back, all that stuff. So I took that into consideration when I made them. But I don't think until recently a lot of people didn't realize how good Block Plus was this year. For a center back, it actually makes more difference than Intercept Plus does. If you play with the symbols showing when they activate for the playstyle pluses, you'll probably notice Block Plus show up quite a bit. So it's really useful for center backs. And Anticipate Plus, again, really useful to avoid fouls and penalties. Because center backs, they're in the box more than anyone except your goalkeeper. So you really want to Anticipate Plus so you don't get called for those fouls. Now, the Intercept Plus, that's still really useful. Like if they're trying to do through balls to their striker or something, Intercept Plus will help that. The Block Plus is more for shots, to stop those shots. Jockey Plus, that makes them really agile. It just adds to the agility. See, I like playing with high agility center backs. I don't like that lengthy garbage where they're real slow and can't do anything, and then they wonder why certain types of players constantly get past. Now, I like the high agility, and Jockey Plus helps with that agility. Now, you can only have up to 5 playstyle pluses. So, yeah, Quick Step Plus would have been nice, but I would prefer Bruiser Plus if you could get it. Just so that way, again, when they try the through ball stuff, then you can just shove them off. But also what comes into play, these two right here, when you do like how I was saying earlier, when they try to do those through balls, and you see them ahead of time, they're sending their players on runs. If you double tap R1, so that way you have your center backs usually, or a center back and either right or left back, depending on which side they're attacking on, and they track those runs, and as soon as they pass that ball, but before it gets there and you release it, and you tap R1 again, that's when this Intercept Plus and Anticipate Plus, they're going to come into play, and your players are going to take that ball from them. So these not only come into play in the box, but if you do how I was suggesting and track those runs, and you time it right to release it, and then press it again just for one of them, for whoever they passed it towards to take it, these are going to help you out a lot. And then my other one, set up pretty much the same. She has aerial fortress. This one has slide tackle. This one's shorter, 5'5", so I did the slide tackle. This one, 5'9", is the tallest player on my team, so I did the aerial fortress to help out. Okay, oh yeah, one thing I didn't remember to mention for goalkeepers. Early on, I always struggled against corners with big players like Holland. Of course, I have a 5'8" goalkeeper, and my center backs aren't big either. Okay, what changed that? First of all, yes, I have the aerial fortress so she can get higher. But this 1v1 close down, you can press R3 and pull your goalkeeper out, have them shoulder to shoulder, but their shoulder barely in front of your opponent's target player. Even if they're big like Holland, you do this, and then you double tap Y when they hit that ball to their target player, and she can either capture the ball or punch it out. I got this one too, just, so you have even stronger punching animations and stuff. But this one is the one that showed up for a long time when I had those symbols activated when she's stopping them. And she could jump high, and most of the time she punches it out, but sometimes she catches it. But she's been able to defend against Holland and stuff ever since I figured that out to pull them out with R3, and she had this playstyle in the Aerial Fortress Plus. So I really like that. It really made a difference for my team. Okay, now moving on to the wingers. Now, this one, I attack on this side. I run it straight down the line a lot of times. In my experience, she's faster than everyone in the game. Even when she had 92 pace, she's faster than 99 pace players with Quick Step Plus, Rapid Plus, all that stuff. Fastest in the game, and they weren't as fast. So, in my experience, she's extremely fast. Could have got these to make her a little bit faster. But, as I was building her throughout the whole year, that wasn't an option. You couldn't just pick anything you want like you can right now. Now, first touch, I like that because as soon as you get it to them, you can take off running. If you've ever experienced, especially when there's lag, how it feels like when you pass to your player, they're momentarily stunned and they can't move at all. You can't turn, you can't take off running. You can do a whole lot of nothing. This First Touch Plus, it makes a big difference in that instance, so that way you can move and you can take off running a lot faster. That's why the Plus has a pretty noticeable advantage over the base for that. I use the Tech Plus because once she gets down there, I do like to be very maneuverable with R1. Trickster, she just came with that. I don't normally use flick stick skill moves at all, so I never select Trickster for anything. Later on, I was able to get her really high defense, which normally that's not the case at all. But that's why I got Intercept Plus to get those through balls. Now off to the side, I wanted Tiki, of course, so you don't make mistakes when you're doing the pass back and forth stuff. But I'd choose Ping Pass over Incisive, because then you can do the driven ones, hold R1 and press A, and that will do driven over to your striker or your cam in the middle. Or if you really want to press it, do it to your inside forward version on the other side, like how I have it set up. But yeah, I like Ping Pass. That's probably the most preferred. If I could only have one passing play style for either the left or right side, it'd be Ping Pass, because that gets it in there a lot quicker, which means that you can do counter plays and bypass the defense a lot. If you have more options, then yeah, Incisive is good to get it in front of them. And of course Tiki, so you don't make mistakes. Now, when it comes to shooting, this normally is highly dependent on which foot you use and what side of the field you're playing them on. Since I'm playing her on the left and she's right-footed, if I could only choose one, then Finesse would be the one. That way you use your strong foot with the most power possible. So I used to play her on the right too. I've played her on both sides. And in that case, if they're right-footed and you're just going to play them on the right, then Game Changer would be the one of choice. Low driven, now that comes into play if you're running sideways too. If you're not running straight at the goal and you're not running at an angle, if you're running absolutely sideways, you go up, you turn 90 degrees angles towards the inside, and the defenders are back there trying to block you and stuff. Then low driven actually works pretty well for that. But the plus, it does make it faster, so they can't respond as quick. So all this stuff, it would be the opposite for the other side of what I'm doing right now. And it is highly dependent on which foot your player has. Now, like my team, everyone's 5-star, 5-star. I mean, the whole team, I think. I don't know if there's anyone that's not at this point. Even my goalkeeper is. Yeah, so at this point, it doesn't really matter. But if you don't have 5-star on everything, then it makes a difference. So then the opposite side I have over here for Ona, and then I only play her on the right side, and that's it. And she's right-footed. So actually, if I could have had the choice, like now, you can handpick every single playstyle you want with the Playstyle Lab. So if you're setting up a new player, if they're right-footed and you're playing them on the right, Game Changer would be the one to go with, not Finesse. Unless if you have 5-star on both, then that's fine. But if you don't know, Game Changer is superior to Finesse. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but if you used to be like into fighting games and you're watching all the frames for every move to see which moves can be executed faster than others, so it gives you an advantage, that's this. You can watch it yourself. Try them in the middle of the field, like your cam or your striker. Try one of them that has both Finesse and Game Changer, so you can see it for yourself, not just take someone's word for it. Now, when you're running full speed with R2 and an opponent is chasing you and they're really close, if you try Finesse, it takes more frames to activate that. So then your player slows down. They're actually not running as fast. They slow down, and then they have to turn, and then they hit the Finesse shot. Game Changer, that's not the case. They can be running at full speed, and you just press B. Nothing special, no L1, R1, none of that stuff at all. Just run at full speed and press B. And they can hit it and kick it while still running. They don't have to slow down. They don't have to turn their body and all that stuff. So Game Changer is actually superior to Finesse in this game. I don't know why a lot of people just don't realize that, but that is the case. And then I did get the opportunity before to get pinged plus on her, which I really like, because outside, getting it into your cam or striker, pinged makes a big difference. And again, with the first touch plus, so you can immediately take off and move, and the tech plus and all that. Now, I gave Bruiser plus to this side because she can defend better over there. For a long time, Atene had real poor defense. But then on this side, Ona had good defensive ratings and stuff already. So I did Bruiser plus just to add on top of that. And then like my right back behind her, she has the same thing with the Bruiser plus. So if they attack down that side, they're pretty much doomed. So I purposely control people on the left side of my team, because then they want to stay away from the player, and that usually forces them over to the other side. And then they go right where Ona and Sheila are, and they both have Bruiser plus, and they're fast. So that has worked for me. And again, because she's defensive, that's why I got the Jockey plus too. But it depends on which side you're attacking on, or if you want them more balanced. But this side, she can attack, and she gets lots of goals. I mean, if you look at that, she has lots of goals and assists. But I set her up to be more defensive on this side of the field. Now the middle, there's box to box, and there's cam. It's a little bit harder just by showing what I have, because at this point in the game, you have so many playstyles and stuff that normally you don't get to have all year. And I didn't get to just handpick everything. But anyways, in the middle, you're still going to want the Quick Step Plus. Whether you're on an attack or defense, it's useful all the time. But the defensive one, having Bruiser, is useful. The first touch, that's useful for all of them, just so your players are more responsive and quicker. Now your defensive one, Intercept Plus in the middle of the field, that's useful when they try to cross it back and forth. Then you can take the ball. Out of these, normally if I have all the passing playstyles and I get to choose only one for Playstyle Plus, it would be Pinged Plus, to make it travel faster. So if you get the choice, I'd go with ping plus over any of them. Now, most of my people in the middle don't have long ball. That's a more recent thing I'm trying to get used to and learn with the L1 and Y to do it over the top. I wasn't used to that at all for a long time, and I'm finally starting to get used to it a little bit. Um, yeah, what else? You might want rapid, but it's not as necessary for the one that you tend to defend with more. That's more for your playmaker, for your offensive one. The shooting, you still want one. You don't have to have two, but you'd want one shooting one that's good, so that way you can still attack with them. If you're going to replace one of those shooting ones, anticipate is a good one to go with. Like I said, it makes your player play smarter. They'll fulfill these roles and stuff better than they normally would have if you have anticipate. And they won't get penalized as easy or called for fouls as easy, but mainly it does still make them play smarter. If you want to try the ridiculous garbage, you can go with the power shot, how some people are trying now. Sometimes they make a goal from really far, the ones that are practiced with it, but the majority of the time it just ends up a turnover and your opponent has the ball. The press proven, I have that, so they can't take the ball as easy. If you have unstable internet connection, so you have to deal with garbage where it's unresponsive a lot of times, then you might want to get press proven and enforcer and stuff on more of your players, because then you can use L2 because they won't be very maneuverable with tech dribbling anyways. This side, this is the more attacking one. That's why I have the rapid plus on her. And I did get the option to choose at that point. So I got pinged plus when I could. Earlier in the year, I got the inventive plus. I got it on her, and then I got it on Kearns, those foundations early in the year. You can see way down here, because that's really useful. But the most useful one, again, is ping pass. And then if you have high defense, even on your playmakers, intercept plus is a good thing to have in the middle of the field. The majority of balls go through the middle of the field at some point. So have an intercept plus that can get you to take possession of that ball. And then, let me see. I went with low driven on her. She's right-footed. She only plays in the middle, though. Either center, middle, CDM, or striker. Either way, she's not going to play off to the sides. So, you could do game changer. It'd work, from anywhere, as long as you can use your dominant foot. But I went with low driven since she's in the middle, regardless. The finesse that came with one of them, one of the evos that I did over the year. But one shooting one is plenty, so if you had the option, you could go with first touch instead. Increase that responsiveness of your player. Alright, so here's Angela. I did recently get the 99 defense upgrade, so that's how she is now. Really good. Anyways, at the start of the year, because they were new playstyles, they had the Inventive Plus and Game Changer Plus really early in the year. And I got Game Changer Plus, and man, that has really worked out for her. She's right-footed. She can play on the right side, but I just been playing her in the middle, either cam or center middle. Most of the time cam, all year. What do I play? Like over 800 and something matches with her. But yeah, that Game Changer Plus, man, that really helps to score goals. And you can be running full speed and stuff with that. So that's really good. And again, in the middle, the Quick Step Plus is really useful. Because you don't always have the ball. And when you're off the ball, the Quick Step comes into play. When you're on the ball, Rapid comes into play. So that's good to have too. But if only one of them could be a plus, then Quick Step will probably help you more. I do like using the agility stuff, R1, L1, all that. That's why I have Tech Plus on her. First touch. Now, she has Incisive Plus. She's the only player on my team with Incisive Plus. What I've come to realize is through balls with no incisive or incisive base, you might as well just walk up and hand that ball to your opponent. Because if, say, your striker's running and there's the defender and your striker's on the right and you have incisive base, it's almost always going to pass it on the left and make sure your opponent gets it and your own player can't touch it at all. And Sisu Plus is the only way to counter that from what I've seen. Well, not the only way. If you want to do AI passing with player locks, that'll work. But if you're the one passing it and not the AI, then you need Incisive Plus for the through balls. So I gave it to my cam, but that's the only one because there's other stuff I like to use on my other players. But if you plan on doing a lot of through balls, Incisive Plus is the way to go because that's the only one that's accurate. The other ones, like at least half the time or more, you're just handing it straight to your opponent for free. Now, for her, I have all those shooting ones, the three main shooting ones, even though she's right-footed, but so that way she can shoot from anywhere. And she already has the other stuff that I like. I do have Dead Ball. Normally, for a long time, she was my designated, not only penalty shooter, but free kick shooter. Actually, quite a few of her goals were from free kicks. I'd say close to 100 of those goals that she has were scored from free kicks in multiplayer. So that might have made a difference. It might have contributed to it. I don't know, but she's really good at it. She has a unique step up to attack. You know, if you've seen Chloe Kelly, Angela Sosa did that way before. That penalty kick that Chloe Kelly did to win for Arsenal and stuff. Angela Sosa was doing that for years, way before Chloe Kelly ever thought of that stuff. So she does have that unique kind of build up before doing it, and I just gave her Dead Ball too, so that way she can be the designated one. You only need one player on your whole team to be taking your free kicks and penalties and all that. So the rest of the team, they don't need it. Only one out of the whole team. And if you didn't know, for defense, okay, my team's shorter because they're all girls on my team, but for defense, for the aerial fortress thing, it does not need to be a center back. It can be anyone. So, like, say you play with Holland up front and he's big and can jump and all that stuff, you could get aerial fortress on a player like that. Because when you're setting up defense against corners, just make sure your biggest player that can jump, make sure they have good jumping too, and has aerial fortress. Have them the ones defending the target player. Don't have them at near post. Have them defending the target player, and you personally control them, and then just jump and block that target player. So they can be offense. Like for a while, I used what's her name, Myra Ramirez, when they had that other Evo. I can show you. You'll probably recognize the background to it. Let's see. It's right here. Yeah, I have the fuddies. But if you recognize this background from earlier in the year, from that Evo that you could do, see, she don't even have it. She don't even have the aerial fortress. But she had really good jumping and was tall enough. I was able to defend headers pretty well with her just because of the good jumping and stuff. But if you have aerial fortress, that just adds to it. And if you have a taller player, that adds to it even more. But you do got to make sure they have good jumping, because I've tried a couple players that are tall, like 6 something, but their jumping sucked and they couldn't really move or do anything. So it didn't really help. So you got to have that good jumping. That's number one. But number two, if you could get that aerial fortress, the position does not matter on your whole team because you personally control them, that one player. And you only need one to do it because you can only control one at a time anyways. Now for assignments against corners, you know how you get a near post and a back post player? That's when you should also assign the people that have block plus to those positions. Because there have been times when opponents would have scored, you know, because my goalkeeper wasn't over there far enough to get to it. But then the people back there, my defenders, they're right there in front of the goal line, and they either head it out or kick it out, and they save me from a goal being scored against me. So that's another time when that block plus really does come into play and can be really useful. I think I pretty much covered all the positions, right? Oh, I got to cover striker. I think that's the last one I got to cover. Okay, so for striker, again, a lot of times I have unstable internet, so that's why I have this press proven and enforcer plus. I like to play with the L and R buttons and be quick and agile, which she's really good at. And the Tech Plus, I really enjoy all that. But that only works when your internet's working. If you have garbage internet that's inconsistent lots of days, then it's worth it to invest in Enforcer and Press Proven. I chose Enforcer Plus from what I've experienced. Seems like if you're only going to get a plus on one of them, Enforcer should be the one. Now I do have all three of these for shooting, and then I do have the header one too. You don't have to be tall to do headers. If your players, your wingers, if they're fast enough, you will be far beyond the opponents anyways, and then you can hit it in there. And as long as you're accurate with heading, then you can score the goals that way. You don't need to be tall if there's no defender right there. If the whole way you're scoring the header is you're just outpacing them and hitting it over there to get it in faster before the defense catches up, then you don't need to be tall to do those headers, because she can make them. And she's only like 5'7", see? So, yeah, they work that way. Now, the Finesse Plus, the reason I did that, even though I do like Game Changer Plus more, but, you're building them throughout the year. You don't get to actually just choose every playstyle handpicked like you can right now for all the new people. I did Finesse Plus over Game Changer this time because if they had too strong of a defense, I was taking shots from outside the box. That's why I did the Finesse Plus. And then the low driven, that's because I forget who, but there's a couple high rated goalkeepers that were supposedly some of the best throughout the year in this game, but they had really low kicking stats and they sucked against low drivens. So because of that, I went with low driven. The Rapid Plus, because strikers, they're usually on the ball. You're not usually running around chasing people from behind, defending with your strikers. So that's why I went with Rapid Plus over Quick Step Plus. Whereas other positions in the midfield and backfield, I'd go the other way with Quick Step Plus instead. Now Incisive and Tiki, those are useful so they don't make mistakes. You don't need pinged as much for a striker because you're not really hitting driven balls and hitting them far away. So I think that covers most of it, except one thing that you probably noticed on every single player I have, and that's Relentless. If you don't quit your games, most people design their team as glass cannons. They're really good at the start. About the 75th minute, their team's in the trash. And that's because they have no energy and they become extremely slow. And I think a lot of them don't realize when you do R1 pressure for defense, that's when Relentless comes into play. Your player can pressure them longer, or when you're tracking those runs and stuff, it's more effective if you have Relentless. So if you notice, every single player I have out here has that playstyle. But even a lot of the promo cards do not have Relentless. So right now, if you're building a team because you can pick any playstyles you want, then you might want to consider that too. And sure, I have all these subs and everything, but there's no point in that. I was just showing the different playstyles per position. So hopefully that was useful. I can flash the tactics up there in case you wanted the code again from when I showed it the first video. How I use that for the 4-4-1-1. And then again for this one, when you switch to defense later on. And just a reminder, I quit using the other formations because when you're in the middle of switching to those in the D-pad, in the middle of the match without pausing it, then your players in transition leave holes, and then the opponent, they can attack those holes and score against you. So that's why I switched to the same formation, whichever formation you like. It doesn't have to be this one. Whichever one you like, make two tactics of it. One that's your normal one that you can attack and defend, but also one that's way more defensive. So that way, if it's late in the game and you're just trying to hang on because you're 1 point ahead or something, then you could do something like this. So hopefully that was useful. I'm going to end this here. It's gone on long enough. Showed the tactics and play styles, everything. That's probably the best I could do to help people out. So hopefully it does. If you're interested in Medieval Dynasty, I may stream that later today. If not, then I'll still do it on Wednesdays. This video, if you missed part of it, if it's not on here later, I should add it to my YouTube channel also. So, catch you next time.